Hey, welcome to the Camden Otis Show. Prepare Part 3. And in review, because, repetition helps with the knowledge. The theme for the year 2021, for those of you listening to this in the future, the theme for the year in 2021 is focus. And let's see if I can get all three of them this time, Camden, because we know that three is a tough number for me. In February, we talked. Oh, see, I already messed it up. In January, man.
Here we go.
Yeah, I got anxious. I was already jumping ahead. In January, the theme was to begin, start, do something, move forward, get action going. In February, it was clarity. Hey, I made it. There we go. And then this month, it's prepare. And we're on part 3 of prepare. And this is where we're going to dive into a bit of the application process of preparation. What do you do? How do you do it in different areas, different parts of your life, your world? And we're going to start off with some kind of fun things and just go through that and give you some ideas of how we do it. And then we'd love, and I'll toss this out there right now, love to have some feedback on how you do it. Is it different? Is it the same? Just send us a note and say, you're doing it the hard way, Otis. Do it this way. I prepare this way. And because I'd love to be more efficient in my preparation. So,
oh yeah. Everyone's got good ideas. Everything different works for different people. So who knows, these things that we do may or may not work for you. Hell, Dad, you've given me books of advice over the years, and probably, one volume of that book series might have actually worked for me because we're just different people and that's how things go.
Well, like we always used to say, techniques are like assholes. Everybody's got one. So, that's I think that the more kinder, gentler translation of that would be belly buttons. So
that's no fun. That's no fun.
In case, just in case, you want to be kinder and gentler, just say techniques are like belly buttons. Everybody's got one. So
there we go. Well, great. Well, I'll send it right over to you to start off, Dad. How do you prepare for a work day? Regular work day.
Yeah. Well, I try to do it, and not always, but I try to do it the night before as I wrap up my day and kind of reflect on what I did that day, successes, wins, areas to improve. And then I look at what's on my calendar, those things that are already committed times that I'm dealing with outside interactions that I can't change and be flexible on. Make sure that's captured so I understand what those are and have outcomes and vision for each of those. And then the spaces in between is where I create my own outcomes. What is it I want to do? Hey, that project I've been working on, the training I'm doing, or whatever, putting those in there. And having those as outcomes I want to accomplish for that next day. That's how I do it. It's filling in the white space. I don't necessarily believe in putting every minute captured. That is a technique. I know some people that do that. But what I like to do is I like to have my calendars just set up this way. So on one side of the page, it has the time. So that's the things that are already set, right? To change them would be difficult because other folks are involved in that. And then on the other side of the page is where I list the things, the outcomes I want to achieve. And that's critical because it also encompasses those meetings, coaching calls, whatever they may be that are already times allocated. And then I use that other side, those outcomes, why do I want to, I'll put on there, want to call my buddy Adrian. Well, why do I want to call Adrian? Well, because I'm setting up a ski trip, and those sort of things, I look at them like that and what's the outcomes that I want to achieve.
You know what stands out to me as you're talking about it, because I have a similar type of system. Night before is where I do a lot of my planning, I would say, which then allows me to prepare the following day. I think if I was going to split it down like that, I would say I plan the night before, I prepare the morning of. And but the distinction there that I noticed with you is when you start talking about the outcomes. So I think when you talk about planning, it's just, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm doing, then I'm doing this. And then when you start talking about outcomes, that's more of a preparedness, because you're going in, you're saying, I have these structured aspects of my day that I'm working around. And there are these either fun or non-essential or whatever type of personal improvement or anything like that type of other accomplishments, other outcomes that you want to get done. And then you're working towards those from the sense of the outcome, not from the sense of call Adrian at 11 a.m. And because you're focused on the outcomes, you're going to be much happier with the results on that. Because when you're focused on outcomes, I mean, we've talked about it 100 times on the show, probably. When you're focused on outcomes, things go better. When you focus on just the to-do list itself, you're going to wind up racking your brain all day and not being productive.
Yeah, I mean, because the to-do list is infinite. I mean, really, when you think about it that way, it's like you never get through the list. You know, even if you're, you know, you got your little book. I had a buddy of mine that, man, he was good at this. He used a yellow legal pad. I'm holding up a book that's not a yellow legal pad. He used a yellow legal pad. So you think about that thing. Was it 14 inches long?
Mm-hmm.
Has a whole bunch of lines on it. I don't even remember how many. Has a lot of lines on it. And he had a system. It was a beautiful system of, he put squares and he'd write that thing down, and he had a process of an X or a half filled in, and they meant all these different things to him, of course. And he would walk around, you know, it'd be 6 pages deep and be something we talked about, you know, a month and a half ago. And he would flip back to that page and go, oh crap, I ain't got that done yet, sort of thing. And it was just one of those amazing things. It was a great system for him in the process and in the position he was in. But man, and this is the irony of it all, and because it always comes up in my mind. You know, in the military, we always talk about what's the end state. And really, what does end state mean? Outcome, right? Hey, boss, got the mission, but what's the outcome? What's the end state? You know, how do I know when I'm done? Sort of thing, right? And the military is huge on that. You know, they even talk about it in politics and national strategies, and you know, all these sort of things. If you go back and listen to some talks, you know, hey boss, you know, if we're going into Afghanistan, what's the end state? You know, if we're gonna invade Iran, what's the end state? And what's funny is, particularly military folks, it's drilled into our head for mission planning, but then we don't do it at all in our own lives, you know. And even what's funny is in the plans we'll do that, but in the job we got this infinite task list that never gets done. It's just a rolling task list. You know, I'd have a book, kind of like my buddy. You know, I carry around my book, more like the one you carry, Camden. Hold that book up.
I was going to show going back to my weekly to-dos. I do stars and triangles and squares and color coded and everything. So
no,
I'm on that side of the spectrum, definitely.
Show the back of that book. That's a green book, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So, it's not the exact one, but that's a great imitation of the one that we carried in the Army. It just barely fit in our cargo pocket.
The Write and Rain?
No, Write and Rain, that was fancy stuff.
Okay. Because I started off on those when I was working on the farm, because I'd get it wet all the time working on the aquaponic systems.
Oh, yeah. Well, and then you know what? You didn't know what your task list was, and you'd forgotten your outcomes. And, you know, lesson learned there, huh? So back to preparing for the day. You know, the other thing I'll tell you, they don't always hit it at night, you know, because there's times at the end of the day where it's like, dude, I'm out. Mental capacity reached. Don't even want to think about it, because I get up early enough in the morning to know that I'm not gonna wake up and go, oh crap, I'm late for a meeting.
Right.
Probability of that happen is pretty slim. Only if I'm talking to somebody in Europe or something like that is the only time that could happen. So I have time in the morning to check in and see and visualize what it is I've got going for the day. Because once I look at it and review it, even if I do it the night before, I've got it in my head, but that next morning I've got a vision of what's happening. What are those main events and what are the things that I want to accomplish for the day? Accomplish, AKA outcome.
Mm-hmm. As we're talking through this, it kind of brings me back to one of the earlier Prepare episodes when I started talking about preparing for a test and how people would prepare differently. And I've realized I've basically replicated my test taking strategy into my daily work life. Of the night before is when I do my cramming. I'm putting it all together. I, do my losses, wins, improvements, and gratitude for the day before. I plan out what my next day is going to look like. I put, any specific times, just like you're saying, if there's something specific that has to happen at a certain time, I build it in there, and then I build the rest of the schedule out based on outcomes that I want out of it. But then the difference is next morning, I don't do any cramming. That day is no planning. There's nothing like that the day of. It is all preparation. It is all waking up, making sure you get up early because that's the easy part of preparation. Then making sure I go work out, making sure I read my daily stoic so I have some stoicism flowing through my brain nice and early. Then I go on and I start my work that way. And because I think for me, at least, when you separate things like that, you wind up getting to a point to where the night before is the preparation and you're having your full plan. So you know what you're going to go do, what outcomes you're looking for the next day. And then to me, everything the day of is about performance. So obviously preparation ties into the performance. I'm still preparing, but that's not the way I look at it anymore. It's I've got to stretch out my back in the morning. Otherwise I'm not going to be able to sit at this chair all day or whatever it is. It's these type of things where all I'm thinking about is my performance for my outcomes that I have planned for that day at that point.
No, that's a great way of thinking about it. And I love the fact that you brought in performance, because that's, one of the things I don't think people understand that and talk about that enough, but what you're doing, no matter what, whether you're on a podcast, phone call, writing, responding to email, you're performing. Mm-hmm. And you think about it that way, performances can be improved, right? Just like an athlete match, a rugby match, I was watching the Scotland-Ireland game again last night and saw some things I didn't catch when I was watching it live. Mm-hmm. And those are things, when you see those things, that, boy, I hope the athletes are, I hope those players, the coach pointed it out to them in a couple of cases, mm-hmm. because, but that's how they improve their performance. You reflect back on it. In sports, it's really easy because, it's a finite time. I was on the field, did this, and did this. But that's the same process we can use in our lives to get better at our performance. And that goes back to that preparation. Reflecting on how you performed enables you to improve your performance, which is preparation for that performance to achieve those outcomes.
I love that, because as I'm thinking through, I'm picturing, same thing. I'm coaching rugby here at U of A, that we'll go through and watch a film. And it's like, okay, you got to recognize what you're seeing in front of you. And then how are you going to react differently? And that's one of the things you coach when you go through film. It's okay. You're like, look, y'all see this now. You didn't see it during the game, but you see this now. This is how I think you should act differently. And then you're coaching them into recognizing that in the future. And quite honestly, I do the exact same process with my days. When I go through and I identify my improvements, those wind up being a primary focus, almost a mantra for me the next day. If here's an easy one. It was Tuesday. I had a pretty productive day. I got like an 82% of my completion rate. I'm usually in that 80 to 95 range. I get hundreds, by the way, Dad. It is possible, but usually you get 100, you're not challenging yourself. But as I was going through my day, I realized that I was less productive than I could have been because I was thinking about all the crap I had to do. I wasn't just doing it and going through the motions. I would catch myself freezing for 10, 15 minutes thinking about all the stuff I have to do. And so my improvement looking back on it was just focus on the task at hand. Do not let the future or the past overwhelm you, because all you have is the present, right?
Yeah.
And so the next day, yesterday, that was my mantra all day. I wasn't worried about what I was cooking for dinner, which was some amazing shepherd's pie for St. Patty's Day. I wasn't worried about that. I wasn't worried about what I had for breakfast that morning. All I was thinking was, right now, I am completing this task. I am focusing on that outcome. And when you break things down like that and you focus on the present, your performance just goes through the roof.
I agree. And all right, side note, if anybody wants Camden to start his own blog or podcast on barbecuing, let us know, because you know what, that boy's been doing some barbecuing, and it just might be, he might have an idea for his own YouTube Arizona BBQ, you know, the
There we
Wildcat
go.
BBQ or whatever you want to call it. So back to preparing though.
Well, you know, we were talking about making a smoked pork butt into a shepherd's pie yesterday.
Ooh,
Didn't do it, but oh, that could be something.
yeah, we could spend
Oh,
another hour talking about shepherd's pie and processes and versions.
well, here, I'll segue us in with another one of these rapid fire questions, which we went more in depth on that first one. But so that, how would you prepare for a sales call?
That's a great one. One of the things I always do is I dive in, try to understand the person as much as I can. What details can I gain from the person? You know, can I find them on LinkedIn? What's their profile look like? Can I dig it up on Facebook? Have they sent? Is there anything alluded to in any of the messages they've sent? You know, and also I did kind of in that automation create a system thing. When people sign up for doing a consultation call, sales call, whatever you want to call it, I put questions in there that they gotta, I mean, if you're gonna take some of my time, you're gonna give me some answers beforehand. And those questions are part of that, you know, hey, I want to talk to Otis. Let me click here. Okay, I picked the time and date that I want to do it, that I'm available, it works best for me. Now, here's the questions that Otis wants to know, so that I have an understanding. I don't just walk in and say, what's your name again? Fred? Oh, no, it's Frederica. Oh, sorry. You know, those sort of things, to where I have some idea, because once I have an idea of what that person is and what their needs and problem sets are, then I have a vision for my outcome of the call.
Right.
I know where my call wants to go. I mean, yeah, the outcome of a sales call is what? To get the next, to move them in the next step, right? Maybe it's the one where they, you know, they convert, they sign an agreement, whatever, or maybe it's the one they say, yeah, I'd like some more information. Let's set up another call.
Well, one thing I noticed there to help out is the preparation versus planning again. You're taking the information that you have about the individual that you're going into the sales call with, and you're not writing a script. You're not planning out, this is how it's going to go. You're going in, you're saying, okay, I think they're here. I think I want to get them here. And you're prepared for that, because you're also prepared to switch as things go around. You know, we got to, sorry, I was going to say Omaha, because that's a verb for me, because I grew up watching Peyton Manning in Denver. Sometimes you got to Omaha, and, you know, you might not have all the information for the person, and that's okay. That's why it's about being prepared, not having a plan. Because when you have your plan, you're married to it, you're trying to stick to it, and when something happens, you're not going to be flexible. You got to be prepared so that you can be flexible.
But when Peyton would audible and holler out Omaha, he still had the same outcome in mind, didn't he?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it was get a first down, score a touchdown. Still the same outcome in mind. It wasn't to win the game. It was get a first down, score a touchdown. Those were the outcomes that he was shifting in the path. So the preparation, and this is one of the things that I'm a huge proponent of, and this goes to, you know, your coaching. We do the same thing, is the rule of threes. And our mind, our reactionary mind, when things get into stress mode, or as I demonstrate fairly regularly, the memory mode, 3 is it. 3 is the ideal number for us. And so when we're in a sports match, you know, in a rugby match, I always talked about the rule of 3. You know, what are your 3 options in this point? What can you do? Do you go here, here, or here? Do you do this, this, or this? And it's always that sort of thing. And it actually comes from, and I don't know where the origin is, but I know naval aviators, the brown shoe guys and gals, that's what they train on. What are the 3 emergency steps that I have to take? And they train on those and they hone those, because in the end, when it gets really, really, really bad and you don't have time for analysis, your mind can handle those 3 things, 1, 2, 3, and you get 3 choices: ditch it in the ocean, crash land, or abort, or whatever those 3 things are for Navy pilots. So that's when you start to think about things in threes, it's a really powerful way to look at that. And that's part of your preparation, right? What are my 3 options going into this call? What are the 3 possible paths that we can take that lead to an outcome, right? They say, no, thank you. I've heard enough. Don't need it. I'd like to learn more, or sign me up right now. Here comes my check.
Right.
I mean, those are 3 possible outcomes that everything is leading towards.
And another thing I'd add on to that, as far as the rule of 3 goes, and as we're talking about preparation, I often will have 3 main outcomes, my pillars of the day that I'm thinking about. It's, for example, today I would say, have a good podcast. That's always my first one. It's 8 a.m. Started off strong with that. Have a good podcast, be prepared for that. Then it's shift gears into work, catch up on all of my tribe and purpose and Verbi work that I'm working on today. That's not a very specific one because I don't have a great plan for today, but I know what I'm working on. And then the third one is to have a great rugby practice this afternoon. And I build my day that way so that there's 3 things I'm focusing on throughout the day. As I shift around during the day, like I mentioned, one of them was pretty generic between 2 different businesses I'm working on and all of the different tasks on there. But it's me putting into a category where between probably about 9 a.m. to about 3:30, that's what I'm working on. That is the outcome I'm focused on, is working on those areas.
That's great. I want to bring us back a little, like you just did, but bring us back into.
Hit us with a question.
Yeah, the questions. It's the, how do you prepare for a road trip?
Ooh. See, I'm going to answer this and then you're going to make fun of me because I probably took about half of what you do and then bastardized the hell out of it. So first thing I'll do is usually at least a week ahead of time if I'm cramming something up, and I've got a road trip coming this weekend. About a week ahead of time, I'll usually map it address to address, get my idea of what I'm looking at there. Then depending on who I'm traveling with, I'll add on some time for that. For, Lugie and Jessica are both coming with me on this trip. So we're going to add an hour, maybe an hour and a half for their bathroom breaks. I can do a 6-hour one straight. I've done that before. But map it out, get your time going there. Then we go back to our outcomes. I realize what is the outcome of that first day when I get there. For example, for this trip, we're going out to see the Farajis, and we're going for Persian New Year. Persian New Year is on Saturday. Persian New Year party starts at 3:30. So we're working back from 3:30. We got to get ready. Once we're in San Diego, we got to drive there. So that's at least an hour and a half back from that. We got 2 p.m. We're bringing the dog with us, and he's going to be locked up for a few hours. So we got to go exercise him and play with him and get him situated. That's another hour. Got 1 p.m. there. Like to spend some time with my buddy Amir, maybe go grab some lunch, go another hour and a half. Back down 11:30. 11:30, you take a 6-hour drive, add on an hour of stops. Now we're leaving at, let me do that math real quick. What is that? 4:30. Waking up at 3 a.m., packing my suitcase then, because that's how I do things. And then we're getting in the car, we're going out. And that's the funny thing, this is why I figured you would laugh at me for that, is I took like everything about your preparation for the planning side, except I pack morning of. I don't know what it is about it. I don't know. Part of me just says there might be change of plans. I got to throw everything together the morning of, so I'm ready.
Well, I mean, it works for you. The other
that
thing
is the most backhanded comment. It's like an old Southern woman saying, bless your heart.
Yeah. Bless your heart, boy. Really, the only thing I'd say, I mean, it's great. And the backwards planning is such a simple thing that we all can do in that preparation for what we're trying to do. It's like, when do I need to be there for the meeting? And do I want to be there right on time? Do I want to be there 15 minutes early?
Mm-hmm.
It's and then staying in that time thought process, the only thing that you have to account for, and you've done it somewhat, is what's the acceptable risk of being late, because the unknown, and really it's not an unknown, because what if there's traffic, right? That's a known risk. So how do you buffer that? What if you can't find that favorite shirt that you wanted to wear for, Persian New Year this year? And by the way,
What if you can't find a parking spot in downtown San Diego?
Yeah. How much time do you need to spend add on to drive around the block, and then you find a spot and you got to walk 10 minutes, and then guess what? You get sweaty.
So we're leaving at 3 a.m. because I've got to account for the risks of the traffic, and then we also got to account for the risk of not being able to find a parking spot and the walk-in. Okay, we're gonna keep it going.
Oh yeah, it was by the time you get done, you'll be leaving at midnight.
We'll leave right after the game finishes up Friday night.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's, preparation is you're identifying, the part of your preparation is that identification of the risk, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about that the other day when just Nate and Dennis were on the show. That preparation, you identify risk because you're looking at what you're going to do. That's your preparation. So you identify the risk. In this case, we're talking about being somewhere on time, and the risk of, something happening along the path.
Right. And well, to your point, it's almost, there's the two different types of risk to take my situation. The big thing that we are going there for is Persian New Year. If we miss that, that is catastrophic. This trip is no longer successful if we miss that. Then on the other end of it, what is the risk of leaving early? Oh no, I get to spend more time with my buddy Amir. Oh no, I get to go to the beach. Oh no, I get to spend time in San Diego where it's nice and hot, and not too hot coming from Tucson. All those type of things. Those aren't negative outcomes. So then, you go into the risk mitigation type of thing. It's like, okay, well, this one's catastrophic. That's the $1 million problem that could come up. And then these ones, they don't even cost me any money if they come up. So I'm leaning towards this side of the spectrum so that I'm, really just hedging my bets on things.
Well, my next question, and this kind of falls in that same train of thought, is what's the outcome? Is the outcome the journey, or is the outcome the destination in this road trip?
I'm gonna pause for a second, make sure I get this right. But the outcome is the destination. Outcome is the destination on this one. The journey will be fun, but I'm anticipating that the journey will be a lot of me driving, listening to Joe Rogan, and a lot of Jessica and Loogie sleeping in the car. And once we get there, that's what we're going for. We're going there to see the Faragis, see the beach, and get some of this great fried whitefish that they're doing for Persian New Year.
Dang, they didn't invite me. So
we'll get you out there next year.
Yeah. But it's that thought process right there in your preparation for the trip helps define things going on, right? Mm-hmm. Because if the journey was the outcome,
we couldn't leave at 4 a.m. because then she would be sleeping.
Yeah, exactly. So you change your whole path and your whole plan for the weekend. Because
if it was about the journey, I would work backwards from sunset in San Diego. So we're coming right out of those mountains right when that sun set. And if it was all about the journey, at least.
Yeah. I mean, that's just some thought processes, decisions that you make in how you do these sort of things. Something that's as simple as, hey, honey, let's jump in the car and go to San Diego. Why don't we? Okay, well, why are we going? And it's what's interesting is people will snicker at this and think, what? But we all do this. And if you take these techniques that we do internally and naturally, I mean, truthfully, and apply them to other areas of our life, you can get so much more efficient and effective in your performance and what you're trying to achieve in that little bit of preparation. It's the lesson I always, or the analogy I always toss out there when I'm teaching people about planning is, hey, you're hungry, right? I mean, whether you forecast Hey, it's 5:30. It's time to eat. Like my dad, when I was growing up, I remember that mom had dinner on the table at 5:30.
Mhm.
Let me tell you, that was just the way it was. Dinner was at 5:30, and you were sitting down having dinner, or that plate would be on the counter when you got home. That sort of thing.
Right.
But that whole process, that thought process is, hey, I'm going to get hungry. Or I wake up hungry, or I'm driving and I'm hungry. I didn't have a set time, don't have food with me. Or maybe that's part of your preparation for your journey. But we're driving and it's like, hey, I'm kind of hungry. Let's stop and get something to eat. Okay, where do you want to stop? Where do you want to eat? What do you want to get? Those are all decisions. And we go into our mind and we talk about those things if we're traveling with somebody or with somebody, your partner or whatever, and you go through those sort of things. You're doing the analysis, whether you realize it or not. And these are the same things, that same process that, hey, guess what, everybody? You can take that, move it over here to that business thing that you're doing. Do I go after this proposal? Do I make this, build this new line of business, or whatever those things are? It's the same process that you do in your head, talking through whether you're with somebody or not. Hey, do I want to eat Carl's Jr.? Do I want to eat at Freddy's? Do I want to eat Culver's? I don't know. Well, kind of like, when you do that analysis, it's like, boom, this is the one I'm going to.
Yep. And what I think it really comes down to, and to kind of wrap us up on this, is to reiterate probably one of the first things we said about preparation back in the beginning of March is preparation improves your performance. That is a generic statement. And the reason it's generic is because you can apply preparation to anything. If you are preparing for your workday, you will get more out of your workday. If you're preparing for your weekend, you'll get more out of your weekend. You're preparing for your rugby match on Friday. Now you're going to be ready for your rugby match because you are preparing for it ahead of time. Just like dinner, just like anything else, things are going to happen. It's easier if you prepared. Things are always going to happen. There's always going to be something that's coming up. You're always going to have to eat your next meal. So you might as well prepare for it and have an idea ahead of time. Because just like you're talking about, which burger joint are we going to go to get a burger? What if you don't even know whether or not you want a burger? You got to start preparing at some point. You got to have that reflection, honest reflection to yourself, have that clarity about what you want, and then apply that clarity into your preparation for that, even if it's just where you're getting a burger.
And I'm already preparing for my next drive down to Tucson to get a Just a Burger at Blake's Just a Burger in Medina, New Mexico. I can just tell you all that right there. If you're ever down there in Medina, New Mexico on I-10 heading west, I'm putting a plug in for them. I am, because it was good. Let me tell you, it was good. Miss Suzanne loved it too.
Ooh.
Stop in at Blake's Just a Burger. I ain't getting any kickbacks or anything like that. This ain't an advertisement. I'm just telling you. You want a good burger out in the middle of nowhere in New Mexico? Blake's Just a Burger. So check it out. Anyway, unpaid for advertisement. What I learned, I'll ask myself what I learned. A couple things. I've forgotten that this was Persian New Year this weekend. So happy New Year to all my Persian brothers and friends and sisters. And just got to capture everybody.
Oh, yeah.
One I thought that you hit on right there towards the end, I thought was really kind of a cool thing, is better preparation equals better performance.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're not prepared, then your performance is part of your performance is that distraction of, hey, what about this? What about that? And those sort of things as you're going forward. So you're unable to focus on the task at hand, mm-hmm. that being present in the moment for that outcome to occur. So Camden, what'd you learn?
Well, I'm laughing. I got to add in a story. We were talking about a family member on my fiance's side that they are not planners, and they are people who cram too much into their day. And watching her do an impersonation of what it looks like when they're trying to rush out of the house, when they have to rush, because they usually don't, they'll just show up late, and how they run around and they're running and they're moving really fast and they're talking really fast and they're really angry, but they don't do anything. And it's because they're not prepared. They don't know what they're out there doing. They just know they got to get everything done. And I just had to add that because it just, as you were talking there, it's just the perfect illustration in my mind.
It is. So what did you learn?
Well, so one of the first things, and actually this is one where it would sound like we scripted this because we came back full circle so well. Something you said really early on got me. It was everything is performance. When we talk about preparation, like you said, or like I said originally, there we go. Preparation drives your performance. And everything is performance. Whether it's how much fun you're going to have on your day off. If you're prepared, if you know what you're doing that day, you're probably going to have more fun than if you just woke up and laid around all day and then realized you wasted the entire day. Same thing goes for a work day. Same thing goes for rugby practice, a podcast episode, whatever it is. If you're not prepared, you will not perform at a higher level. And as much as this may sound like a buzzword to some folks, and it's a cliche of, oh, well, we got to perform better, perform at a higher level, high performance, all that kind of stuff. Don't you want to be better? That's all I see it. Why would you not try to be better? That's about all we got out here in the world, is to keep trying to be better every day, right?
Oh yeah. Preparation enables you to be better. There's a tagline understatement thing. So
there we go. There's the title.
All right. Camden, run us out.
Thank y'all again for listening to today's show. Special thanks to our sponsors, Verbi Virtual Events and Tribe and Purpose. Find your purpose, build your tribe. You can check out recent episodes of the Cam and Otis Show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. And check out a full archive at thecamandotisshow.buzzsprout.com. The Cam and Otis Show is on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Thanks again, and we'll see y'all next week.